Attention in the goat barn, we need all of your breeding goats that are under 1 year to the north end of the show ring. Again, all your breeding goats under 1 year to the north end of the show ring. Attention in the goat barn. We need all of your breeding goats that are under 1 year to the north end of the show ring. All of your breeding goats that are under 1 year to the north end of the show ring. Please bring all your breeding sheep over 1 year to the north end of the show ring. All your breeding goats over 1 year to the north end of the show ring. Good evening, everyone. Tonight our goat judge is Brandon Callis. He's coming all the way from Oklahoma. If you got to catch the lamb show this morning, he did a wonderful job, so we're really excited he's out here again. He is a teacher at Redlands Community College, so please give him a warm round of applause and thank him for coming out here to Eddy County.
think a very nice way to kick off our this goat show. Really good set of breeding goats all the way through. Just lots of positives and useful pieces to these does as we get them out here. And again, these two, I think even after you get past them being very, very nicely presented out here, there's still just a lot of quality of these two in terms of their skeleton and just the way they're built and designed. And when you go to breaking these two apart, you get right behind them and watch them go away. This one's just square at her hock. She's got more base width. She's a little longer hip there as well. Just got a few more little things going for her, particularly on that rear third of her body there that give her the edge here within this class today. So nice one that leads off. Black-headed one here, again, just like her. Love this one's chest width and forearm. Handles extremely good and dense there over her rack and her loin. A little shorter hip than maybe that class winner is. Main thing is I like to square that one up in her hock and make her just a little wider as she goes from behind, but still very, very nice doe. Red cape fronted one here, really powerful one. Opened up good, big forearm, awesome in terms of just the body shape of her and her rib cage, and so one I think is very, very useful compared to those two. A little shorter fronted, a little more opened up at the top of her shoulder and a little deeper there about her front end, and it just takes away from her look just a touch more, but boy, a productive rib cage, a lot of stoutness in that one. I wish this one in fourth was just had a little more to her. She's got the right look from the side. I like her length, I like her smoothness. Whether she's coming or going, though, that one wants to flatten up, particularly up top. You like to open her up, make her a little bigger and bolder rack. One that comes out here next, big forearm, big chest floor, a lot of power, a lot of bone to that one as well. Just a little weaker right there behind her shoulder. Maybe didn't balance up as well from the side as what those ones ahead of them do. Next one in line, again, long-sided, one that handles extremely impressive when you get your hands on her. That's one thing that's deceiving about her. She's probably as big there over her rack and her loin as most of them in here. Just right when you get in behind her, wants to play out in terms of width. I like to strengthen her up in her pasturing. Hard one for me was this one that comes next. We've got to present it nicely. Her freshness is very, very good. I just found it decided just not enough of her in this class. I like to see just a little more width and size and performance to her to run with those ones ahead of her. And these three we end up closing with still, again, very positive goats. We've got some body, we've got some look and some smoothness, just maybe not the same kind of look and presence we find in those ones ahead of them. But let's give these kids a nice round of applause. Really good set of does.
First place went to Creed Hughes. Second place went to Aspen Hughes. Third place went to Clancy Conklin. Fourth place went to Bailey Trujillo. Fifth place went to Reagan Chavez. Sixth place went to Michaela Jefferson. Seventh went to Aiden Cox. Eighth went to Abigail Chavez. Ninth went to Chloe Jefferson. And 10th went to Abigail Nieto. Can we get your 4 and under booster goat shows to the north end of the show ring? Your 4 and under booster goat showers to the north end of the show ring.
Got a nice single entry here. She does a very nice job with this doe. Love this one's length. I like her look of substance from the side. Really like how she parks her head and neck there in an attractive way. And still, when you get your hands on that one, I think compositionally she still fits in very, very nicely. You'd be critical of that one at all. Maybe right on top of her, you open her up her rib cage and just right in her rack just a shade more. But really a nice look one. It's got a nice quality look about her. Definitely could use more competition. So let's give her a hand. Nice doe here.
First place went to Bailey Trujillo, Cottonwood 4-H.
Really got a nice set of does here, and again, just these three in general, their look of quality, their structural correctness is very good, and at a premium out here. You know, that pair that came out of that first class probably have just a little more shape and boldness up high, obviously some length and some bone advantage and maturity to this one that was a single entry, but that pair out of the first class suit me just a little better today. I'm going to keep those two together, and they'll be a grand and reserve here in the doe show.
Your champion breeding goat went to Creed Hughes, and your reserve breeding goat went to Aspen Hughes. You have 1 minute if you're under 4 to get to the show ring. We are starting.
Got a fun group here. Again, got a few repeats from our sheep show earlier, and a few of them that are new out here, some that aren't sure they want to stick with it. And there's a couple of them out here putting a lot of try into the things. We're about to get a bear hug over here on this one. And so really a good set of peewees out here. Let's give all these kids a nice round of applause. They're doing a good job.
Your 5 and 6 boosters, goat showers to the north end of the show ring. 5 and 6 booster goat showers. All your 7 and 8 booster goat showers to the north end of the show ring. All your 7 and 8 booster goat showers to the north end of the show ring.
Another solid group here, and again, makes me happy to not have to place them and break hearts. But a good group here. Goats are interesting. I always wondered why the good Lord calls us sheep in the Bible. I think we act more like goats than we do sheep here because we don't follow near as well. And so they're kind of feeling the pain out here. Some of these goats not wanting to cooperate as well. Even had a good catch there a while ago. We got one going right now, see? But a really, really good set of them here. Fun group to work with. Let's give them a round of applause.
Five and six booster showers, if you did not get a ribbon, please come back into the show ring. Please bring your Class 1 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 1 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
little more competitive set here. Again, these I think we're 7 and 8 or somewhere around there. Get to be pretty impressed with them. Doing a nice job of keeping them locked in. Go and touch those things. They all handle pretty firm and hard. And then really there's about 3 or 4 of them are doing a lot of the little things especially right. And probably one of them, as we walked in front of them, made the right moves. And that's what's going to end up giving them the nod here today. But really, let's congratulate this whole set of Pee-wees here. And I'll show you the one who did the best job today.
Please bring your Class 2 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Your Class 2 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
Got a nice class here to get us started, and actually two does that do things pretty well. Again, I think both of them here, in terms of quality, you like them. You get your hands on them, you still like them, but there's just more of the one we're going to go ahead and start with. I like the length of hip of this one. I love the way she handles there in terms of just her rack and her loin, how big and square and flat that is, and yet still some boldness of body. I like her look and elevation and her structure, so really just a solid and a good place to start. Makes you feel pretty confident as we get on through the day. If we can find them built like her, we'll like what we end up with. One we have here next in second, again, just got a little neatness to that one. I like that one, shape and expression there as well. Probably not as opened up right there on the top side as the one that sends out ahead of her. Probably not quite as long hip, but still a high quality individual here. We're going to put second here in this class. One here in third and fourth. A little more give and take between them. You get your hands on them, though. One here in third is just a little firmer and stouter, right there over his loin edge and right there behind his shoulder. Still one for me. His length's good. Want to see him a little stouter when you get right behind him. Want to see him a little longer hip there as he goes as well. Dark-headed one here. There's some neat pieces there. He's still just a little green and immature just yet. Doesn't handle maybe as good and fresh and wide right there over his spine, over his top. But you get behind him, there's some base width, there's some hip, and that one just needs a little more time to come on and get it. These next two, probably two of the bolder ribbed and stouter ones up high in terms of rack dimension. When you get to the side, both of them you like to make a little better in their balance. They get a little weak behind their shoulder, a little high in their spine. I like the length of this one a little better than the painted one we left there behind him. Got another pair of them here, kind of opposite again. They're the prettier ones that have got some look, they've got some length to them, just need a little more power, a little more just dimension to them. Same thing can be said as we roll down the line within this class. Just some goats that get overpowered. There's some neat pieces. I think they're young enough and light enough. It'd be fun to see how they continue to progress and mature. But really, let's give this lightweight class a nice round of applause. Good way to get us started.
First place went to J.C. Smith, Country Clovers. Second went to Kaylee Shockey, Cottonwood 4-H. Third went to Jace Starnes, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth went to Madeline Clark, Carlsbad FFA. Fifth went to Peyton Putman, Country Clovers. Sixth went to Jonathan Lopez, Country Clovers. Seventh went to Aubrey Putman, Country Clovers. Eighth went to Aiden Cox, Brush Poppers 4-H. Ninth went to McKenna Cox, Brush Poppers 4-H. 10th went to Jeremy West, Zia Sharpshooters, and 11th went to Felicia Shuri, Artesia FFA. Please bring your Class 3 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 3 meat goats to the end of the show ring.
Another really fun set of goats here, and again, lots of depth all the way through as we get to study. And these two, though, when they first came in, I latched on pretty quickly. Two of them that, again, have the right kind of quality. They're smooth. They're closer to ready maybe than the rest of their classmates are out here, but yet they still look like lightweight goats. You really can't split these two on muscle very much. I think both of them are pretty comparable there. When we get to walking these, though, and I think that's where you start to kind of pick them apart, and this one elevates for me. You watch them go or go away from you or come to you. This one's just a little square-chested, just a little bolder base, but also probably more importantly than anything, watch them out of the rear skeleton, much better out of her hip. A little longer hip, a little better right there in the center of her spine. I'd probably give the rib cage advantage to the one that we're going to set there in second, but this one puts that same kind of muscle and shape together with just a little more correct rear leg posture and squareness as they leave you. This one does, man, the front half of this one's incredible. Good in terms of just her front. I love the freshness and how you fed this one. She handles extremely well. Awesome there in terms of her body feel. Just maybe doesn't match herself with the hip. She's just a little shorter hip than what that one is. Doesn't handle herself quite as collected and good off of her rear, because she almost prances off of her front end, which is cool. Just doesn't maybe handle it off her rear skeleton as well. But that's a good pair of does that represent this class. One we're going to run here next in third, he's really just the meat wagon of the whole class. That one is extremely powerful, extremely shapely. I love his chest and forearm. I love how big backed he is. Just ran into a pair of them there that are a little better there up front than what he is probably, and just grab you and hit you a little harder in terms of their profile. Got another one here that's really good and flat and square loin, really smooth made in the way she puts her pieces together. Start to get right behind her. I like to power that one up relative to the ones in front of her. Give her just a touch more shape there. Another one here that grows on you the more and more you study her here. And again, get right behind her, and I'd say, man, you just need to don't have quite enough probably, and that's why she stands where she does. But you get that one propped up and from the side, so smooth, so collected, so good in her balance, still handles very, very nicely. My problem one was this one that comes next, because there's parts and pieces of this weather I think are very, very good. And I think just one that looks immature today. Just a little off in his hip, doesn't handle quite as wide and square there over his top. It's just he's got neat pieces. They don't all gel together as correctly maybe as what those do. But again, he's got time. I think one, as you continue to feed him on, he's just going to do nothing but crawl up to the top end of that class, because he's built like a market goat should be built, just not quite there yet. Another one here that I love the way this one handles up top, especially over his rack. He's really good. Got a lot of density there, and good in terms of the turn of his rib cage. A little narrower pin, though, a little narrower base, a little flatter there in his lower leg. Same thing for this weather here. Beautiful from the side. Done a nice job putting him together there as well. Just needs a little more to him. Next 4 or 5, as you get to studying those as well, just goes to one to plane up a little bit, maybe be a little more chest floor in them. Main thing, though, just not enough width probably in shape as you get your hands on them and handle them. But let's get this whole class a nice hand, another competitive class of goats.
First place went to Kaylee Shockey, Cottonwood 4-H. Second went to Bailey Trujillo, Cottonwood 4-H. Third went to Kelly Jarva, Country Clovers. Fourth went to Reagan Van Soest, Country Clovers. Fifth went to J.C. Smith, Country Clovers. Sixth went to McKenna Cox, Brush Poppers 4-H. Seventh went to Peyton Putman, Country Clovers. Eighth went to Clancy Conklin, Cottonwood 4-H. Ninth went to Joshua Nayland, Cottonwood 4-H. 10th went to Reagan Chavez, Loving 4-H. 11th went to Alexander West, Zia Sharpshooters. 12th went to Jaylee Joe, Cottonwood 4-H. And 13th went to Jaylee Joy, Cottonwood 4-H. Please bring your first and second place meat goats back to the show ring. Your first and second place meat goats back to the show ring.
Really a good class here. And again, hard to find classes where you got three of them that really are all my kind. I think all three of these look like productive type animals in terms of having some rib cage and some hip in them. They all three, to me, handle themselves structurally in a sound enough manner, even though we can pick some pieces apart in them and discuss them here in a minute. But no doubt about it, this weather up front, I think he leads the game pretty quickly. That one is just so robust in terms of his rib cage. He's so good out through his hip hip in terms of squareness and stoutness. That guy's as fundamental at the ground and stays that way all the way up as you really get to studying him. Now, he's not one of those little bitty headed, chisel neck, chisel shoulder deals, but to me, his shoulder still within the framework of his body. He still remains so balanced and good. I just like a lot of things about that guy right there. Made him an easy one for me to latch on to. My discussion was between these two. When I say discussion, as some of you notice, I'm not crazy. I just talk to myself a lot out here, and I go back and forth on these two because I think both of them are very, very good. Finally decided I like this one here in second better, right there behind her shoulder. As you get to the front 3/4 of these two goats, that one opens up at the top of her hip just a little wider and squarer there as well, and probably because of that goes away just a little better in terms of her base here. I think the trade-off was this one in third. I love that one up front. When she gets that one in motion and gets that one going, that one can really get out there and put them down like she needs to. Right there behind her shoulder, though, I like to strengthen her, and then I like to open her up at the top of her hip ever so slightly as well. But that's a really competitive trio of goats there. One we have here in fourth, still a nice goat here, just ran into 3 really nice ones here. I like to strengthen this one up probably in his pasturing just a little bit, and at times he can hit you just a little softer in terms of shape. I want to crease him up, but his width is good, his volume of muscle is good, his body shape's good, just not as neat maybe as those ones ahead of him. One that comes out here next, another one of the truly powerhouses of this class. He's so opened up and so big-hipped and robust. Just needs to be a little better in terms of his balance, a little coarser-headed, a little coarser-shouldered there. Another one here that props up nice, handles good right there over the loin of that goat. Just want that one to be a little stouter right there in the backside of her shoulder there for me, and then just blend just a touch better as well. Another one here that from the side, boy, I absolutely love this one. Really, really up-fronted and pretty. Heavy bone, one that's got enough structure or correctness to him. You just watch him go away from you, though, of that initial 4, 5, or 6 of them. You like to open that one up quite a bit more, give him a little more product and stoutness. Another one here that's got some smoothness. He's got some forearm and some shape to him. Just want to see him a little wider and stouter here from behind. Probably this doe that comes next, she's probably as big-backed and racked and loin as a lot of them. She just gets a little plainer and starting to get a little softer in her handle. Could use more from behind as well. Another nice pattern one here. Handles his structure well. He's pretty raw out here in terms of condition. He's a little flatter made all the way through as well. And then a pair of does that we end up closing with just don't have quite the look and style just like the one here in front of him does. Maybe just not quite the shape of some of those other ones as well. But outstanding class, really cool trio there up top.
First place went to Braden Fuentes, Artesia FFA. Second place went to Clancy Conklin, Cottonwood 4-H. Third went to Madison Mancha, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth went to Swayze Fulmar, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth went to Jonathan Lopez, Country Clovers. Sixth went to Abigail Chavez, Loving 4-H. Seventh went to Kaylin Wood, Cottonwood 4-H. Eighth went to Aspen Cass, Brush Poppers 4-H. Ninth went to Taylin Pacheco, Cottonwood 4-H. 10th went to Aspen Cass, Brush Poppers 4-H, tag 724. 11th went to Alexander West, Zia Sharpshooters. And 12th went to Jeremiah West, Zia Sharpshooters. Please bring your Class 4 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 4 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
Boy, again, it always makes you feel good when you're out here and you get a lightweight division that's as good as what this one is. And you're very, very pleased, and it just gets you in a good comfort level. That first class, again, that's a nice doe that led off that class. Still so correct and smooth, and I like her body length. I like the squareness and freshness and the way in which she handles there again. And still one that has some length and goodness up front in terms of her look. Had a nice one there in class behind her as well. A pair of them that came out of that next class. This one here, again, just her look, her presence. I really love this one's hip and hind leg and the way she handles it. She's really good and firm there over her loin and the way she comes together there. It still has enough rack. Again, runs uphill the right way. Got a lot of good with her. And again, a classmate over there that you from the front 3/4 of that one's in the game and in the game hard. Just from there back, you like to change that one a little bit as well. And then that pair that came out of this last class, again, a Weather I talk very highly of, that I like pretty well. And then that doe here, and again, that trio of them were good, and she still won. It's pretty basic and stout and fundamental there, maybe just a little shorter hip than a couple other ones out here as well. So really good set of them. No question for me, though, if we can find the rest of them the rest of the day to set the bar as high as this Weather does, we'll be in good shape. He's going to be our champion here in this lightweight division. Going to use Class 2 here to be reserved.
Your champion Division 1 meat goat went to Braden Fuentes, and your reserve Division 1 meat goat went to Kaylee Shockey. bring your Class 5 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Your Class 5 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
Got another nice class of goats here, and end up with 3 or 4 wethers here to the top end that we like pretty well. But this one isn't perfect. I'd change his knee. I'd give him just a tick more boldness right there over his rack. But I still think he kind of distanced this class in terms of just quality and kind. I love him there out of his hip and his loin. He's got some true base width to him as he leaves us. And when we get him propped up in terms of just balance and look and presence, I think that's where he kind of elevates himself in this class, particularly his upper skeleton, so level, so good and correct. So nice one here leads off. Go back and forth between these two and just finally decided I like the extra structure and foot. This one we're going to leave here in second. I think he's got the edge and being just a little smoother blending of his pieces there as well. Grabs good there up top in terms of his rack. I like to see him a little wider and flatter in his loin. I like to see him just a touch wider out of his hip and pin relative to this one behind him. But boy, his balance comes stretch out on him a little, and he'll give you a bad look. But when he keeps this one gathered and up, boy, he really grows on you. A big hip, I think an athletically designed one that can really get and go well in terms of his structure. I like where his chest sets. I like his head and neck. He's a little frail for me, a little raw, a little flatter there in his forerib and upper rib cage relative to those two. But that's 3 nice goats here. Another one you like plenty good from the side, especially on the move, is this one here in fourth. He's so smooth. He's good and heavy structured there as well. He's enough to him for me. I'd still open that goat up quite a bit more, but again, his balance, his smoothness, the way he puts things together is why I like him over these next two. A big hip, muscular one that comes here next. He is wide-chested and huge. But at the same time, he's quite a bit rounder everywhere when you study and analyze him. From the side, balance-wise, he gets just a little deeper and coarser there up front and kind of throws him off a touch more. Spot backed one here, again, one that I think balance-wise you get to like him pretty good. When he's on the move, though, he gets a little plainer chested, a little plainer his muscle shape. Same thing can be said for this one that comes next. Pretty big in his upper hip, handles good over his loin. Just want to see more chest width and see him a little stouter when you get right in there behind him. I love the handle this one we have next. He's so robust in his upper rib cage and body there as well. Just gets a little shorter maybe, a little coarser about his shoulder, and then with as stout and wide as he is up front, I like to see him a little bigger hipped and bigger when he goes away from you. I like the look and smoothness of the one that comes next. Just needs a little more shape and expression. This one here touches really hard and expressive, just not enough volume of muscle here, just kind of gets outpowered. Same thing can be said as we roll down the line on these. They start to get into some compositional questions in terms of not having maybe enough muscle for the amount of condition they're starting to put on, but some goats have got some length, they've got some growth to them here, but really a nice class of them. Neat goat there to lead off.
First place went to Bailey Trujillo, Cottonwood 4-H. Second went to Clancy Conklin, Cottonwood 4-H. Third went to Armando Herrera III, Loving 4-H. Fourth went to Aiden Cox, Brush Poppers 4-H. Fifth went to Dylan Goldston, Artesia FFA. Sixth went to Allie Elkins, Pennyasco 4-H. Seventh went to Chloe Jefferson, Blue Jeans and Boots. Eighth went to Autumn Nayland, Artesia FFA. Ninth went to Elizabeth Nayland, Cottonwood 4-H. 10th went to Armaro Herrera, Loving 4-H, tag 379. 11th went to Clay Kincaid, Pennyasco 4-H. 12th went to Talon Pacheco, Cottonwood 4-H. 13th went to Alexander West, Diaz Sharpshooters. And 14th went to Garrett Wages, Loving 4-H. Please bring Class 6 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 6 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Please bring your Class 6 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 6 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
really another good class of goats here. And I wish we could put these two together. It wouldn't take me so long to decide because I like this weather in terms of just, boy, when he props up right there, I don't think there's really any question in terms of just his extra length that he has. He's just a little more up-fronted. He's just a little longer hipped and longer measuring everywhere, but yet still you compare him back to this doe we have back here, you get on top of her, she is an absolute grizzly bear in terms of just body shape and top and width and substance. And so things I like about both of them, they do really, really well. You get them out here and watch them go. She's probably a little more elevated in terms of the way she handles herself on the halter, but yet he probably handles and disengages out of his rear skeleton a little better. So we can go back and forth and talk about him all day long. Finally decided his balance, his extra length of hip is what we're going to side with and use him to win. But I do like this doe quite a bit in terms of just her massive rib cage and body and stoutness there. I just wish she's a little longer. She's almost just a little small, a little short and compact for me, but that's a nice pair. What I'm going to run here in third, again, another one you like pretty well, especially when they first come in. She's got the right kind of quality to him. He handles really, really good, just not as powerful and opened up. Still probably a little immature compared to those two that lead out ahead of him, but still a very quality individual. Probably one of the fresher handling ones in here is this one that's going to sit here in fourth. I love this one's rib cage and back as well. One, again, very, very smooth and got a lot of good going for him. Compared to those three, he's the one you can pick on from the side. He gets a little deeper chested and plainer, not quite as dynamic and neat out of his hip there. But I do love the way that one handles in terms of just freshness and tone. He's doing a lot of things well. This one that comes here next, another one again, his volume's good, his bulk's good. He just gets a little shorter, plainer, and thicker up front. We watch him go from behind. I just want to give him more shape and expression as he goes, but still a quality goat there. One we have here next, this red cape, red shouldered one. He handles extremely well there over his rack in the middle of his back. Just not that same kind of width as you come on out through the end of his hip and in his base. You like to see him just a little more powerful there. Big forearm, big bone, stout featured one that comes here next. He's a little short in his hip, a little shorter all the way together. Starting to get just a little pelt and hide to him there. Takes away from his touch a little bit, but still a good one there. Another one that's got some power and some width to him, just balance-wise, doesn't hit you as hard. A little up in his spine, a little shorter and roll. One there she has next. It's got the right kind of outline to him. He's plenty green and raw here today, though, a little flatter in his body shape. Same thing can be said for this next one. She does an absolute really good job showing the most out of him, because I really finally decided not enough muscle for me, but boy, she gets him from the side. He props up so well. He's so good in his look. Just needs a little extra shape and width to him for me to go a little higher. I like the stoutness of this one that comes next. He's just a little frailer and off in his balance there. Wants to roll in his shoulder and be a little off behind his shoulder at times. Wants to fall apart on him there. Then a pair of them here, again, their stretch is good, their length is good, their freshness is still good. Just not quite enough of them in terms of muscle and width as we run them up the rest of these in this class, but a really nice class of them.
First place went to Aspen Hughes Country Clovers. Second went to Creed Hughes Country Clovers. Third went to Madison Mancha Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth went to Kelly Jerva Country Clovers. Fifth went to Swayze Fulmar Cottonwood 4-H. Sixth went to Aiden Cox Brush Poppers 4-H. Seventh went to Emma Thorpe Carlsbad FFA tag 735. Eighth went to Garrett Wages Loving 4-H. Ninth went to Emma Thorpe Carlsbad FFA tag 734. 10th went to McKenna Cox Brush Poppers 4-H. 11th went to Case Crandall Country Clovers. 12th went to Adriana Nieto Loving 4-H. And 13th went to Allie Elkins Penasco 4-H. Please bring your first and second place goats from class 4 and 5. Your first and second place goats from class 4 and 5.
Another really solid class and another really good pair of them to get to study up here. These two are probably as fundamental as we've seen it here within this class here in terms of just good market goats first. I think both these things have a lot of skeletal width and power and stoutness to them, and they've got slight advantages over one another. But when you get off to this vantage point and you watch the way things come together in terms of their lines, in terms of the way their front ends tie in, but especially their hip and jump muscle, the way they set in, that's where that black-headed one just starts to elevate just a little more for me. I love his body shape. He is incredible in there in terms of his rib. That one still got the right kind of proportion and length up front, but he's so much better there in hip and rear skeleton in terms of just the smoothness of it, the way it all lays in, the way it all comes together. It just gives you a neater look here from the outside, even underneath the presentation. I just think his upper skeleton, the way it sits in his tail head, his jump muscle just sits in a little smoother, makes him a little neater to look at. This one here, again, in terms of just freshness and handle, I love him. You watch these two go from behind. He is extremely square built from the ground up. He's good up high in terms of his hip dimension. He's got a good square chest in him there as well. I think, again, you get to the side of him, he's just high enough in his jump muscle. He doesn't allow his loin to tie in as smoothly, makes him look a little steeper out of his hip when you get off to the side of him. But from there forward, that one's a contender just with that kind of chest width, presence, and freshness. That's still a nice goat, a nice pair here to lead off here within this class. Doe we have here next in third. I love her power, a lot of width and shape, really big when you get your hands on her. Just ran into an awfully nice pair of wethers that probably are compositionally just a little cleaner underneath, a little neater there up front as well. Another one that comes here next that's got plenty of volume to him, big full arm, heavy bone, big footed one. I just want to see him a little boulder right out of his hip and his leg just to match everything he's got going from there forward. I really like this one we bring here next, and I think this is fifth. Again, she does a good job getting these things propped up and getting them to where they've got the right look and levelness to him. That one handles very good over his rack and his back. Just as you watch him go from behind, he wants to play out in his leg just a little more than I like him to. I just like to keep him opened up there at the top of his hip relative to those ones in front of him. But it's a tough class, and that's still a nice go. This one just comes into pieces. He's huge loin. He's big enough in his hip. He's really long-sided. He's really up-fronted. Probably his rack and rib cage is what gets him in trouble. A little flatter in his rack and rib cage that throws off his balance from the side, but also when you're on top of him, he's just not as opened up as what those ones are ahead of him. Really, the one behind him even probably has that advantage over him just in terms of rack dimension. Balance-wise, though, you get to the side of this one, a little rounder and coarser out of his shoulder. Probably doesn't hit you as square and good in terms of just his true loin edge underneath the fill we got in him there, just to hit you as square as what those ones do ahead, but still a nice go. Another powerful one, again, muscle wasn't really a problem in this class, and this one's got plenty of it, just a little tighter and shorter hip, a little weaker over his spine there, a big outline one there that's got some length and stretch, just want to open him up. Then three of them here, again, maybe not the same kind of expression of muscle maybe some of those other ones have. I like to make them just a little neater in terms of their look, particularly out of their hip, and give them a little more bone. But really a nice class here within this division.
First place went to Creed Hughes, Country Clovers. Second place went to Kaylin Klein, Artesia FFA. Third went to Gracie Rand, Artesia FFA. Fourth went to Stella Rand, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth went to McKenna Cox, Brush Poppers 4-H. Sixth went to Brendan Fuentes, Artesia FFA. Seventh went to Dylan Goldston, Artesia FFA. Eighth went to Colton Ecase, Cottonwood 4-H. Ninth went to Clay Kincaid, Penasco 4-H. 10th went to Taylon Pacheco, Cottonwood 4-H. 11th went to Michaela Jefferson, Blue Jeans and Boots. And 12th went to Matthew Nailing, Cottonwood 4-H. Please bring your Class 7 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 7 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
another competitive division here. This one that came out of the first class, we picked on him in terms of just his knee structure and his rack dimension, and then you still change that out of here, but he might be the best in terms of just from there back, his hip and tail set, his hind leg and the way in which his works, his neatness up front. A lot of good going along with him, but man, you still want to make him just a little more productive there right behind his shoulder, change him in his knee there. And again, he's got a nice one there in class with him. It's pretty smooth blended, just not the same kind of neatness and profile we found on this one. That pair that came out of the next class, again, I told those two it drove me crazy because I really wanted to just slam them two together to get the one we wanted and get comfortable with. But boy, this one does prop up well from the outside. He handles himself well in terms of his structure there. Got that doe there behind him that probably does fix him in terms of just rib cage and boldness, but she was just a little shorter hip maybe. That threw her off just a touch more for me. Then we had this other pair that came out of this just final class, and again, I think just two very, very productive wethers, and I say that in a good way. I think both of them are opened up the right way. Both of them have the right kind of touch and tone to them. Like I discussed, just little pieces of balance is what particularly separates those two. So when you start to get these in motion and start to watch them walk, it all starts to make sense. There's two of them here to me that are built a little more like I like them. Again, I don't like to sacrifice rib cage when I don't feel like I need to, and then keep some structure underneath them. And with that said, these two that came out of that last class hit me pretty good. We're going to keep them two together. They'll be grand and reserve here in this division.
Your Division II champion went to Creed Hughes, and your reserve Division II went to Kaylin Klein. Please bring Class 8 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Class 8 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
think interesting class. And then again, get 3 of them that are all 3 different, really 4 of them. They're all just different here at the top end of this class. And so you're trying to piece it together. And I guess the way it comes together in my mind, the blonde-headed one up here, things I like about second and third I find in this one. In terms of just the width and some actual shape and product, he's a lot like that one we have in third, but length and some look up front and still compositionally, he's a lot like the one here in second. Now he needs to be better out of his hip. He needs an attitude adjustment there as well just to hang in there. But boy, when she does get him plant and stuck, you like him. When he's on the move, you still like him as well. So again, not perfect. Make him just a touch fresher right there behind his shoulder and change his hip. But he gets the closest to taking it and having the right kind of market animal pieces, but still providing some length and enough freshness there up front where I felt comfortable using him. This one here, if she had just a little more to her in terms of just leg dimension and some forearm, she handles great up top in terms of just freshness, big loin in her. Just hits me as a little frailer, just not quite as powerful as I personally would like to build them. But I do love that one's freshness, tone, and touch a little better than the one we set here in third. The one we set here in third, watch that one go from behind. You really like him. He is opened up. He is wide base. He is bold body. He is round body. But there, just the front third of him there, he gets just a little more mature and plainer looking in that vantage point. He too is not the easiest to get put together and wants to wash out in his back just a little bit, and that just throws off his balance enough with that trio of them. It's still a good productive type go. Another one that handles very fresh is this paint here we'll have here in fourth. I love the way he touches up top. When he does get this one propped up, he gives you the right look from the side. You watch all 4 of these top 4 just go away from you, and that's where I slide in fourth. He just gets a little too narrow base for me. I want to open him up and give him just a more true dimension underneath there, but boy, we've done a good job feeding that one. One we have here next comes in fifth. Again, smoothness, balance, got enough proportion to that one. Just needs more shape and product right from behind. Another one here whose chest, floor, and forearm are good enough. Just from there back, I like to power her up quite a bit. Give her just a different hind leg and hip to go off of there as well. But still one, I think, has got the right kind of shape up top. Got another wether here. Again, you don't mind from the side. Again, structurally, I think he's still fine. Just needs more muscle, more product for me. Same thing can be said as we go down the line. You can tell maybe what my first criteria becomes. I like to build them a little wider maybe than some, and that's where these kind of run into a little trouble in terms of shape and just skeletal width. But again, very nice class of goats.
First place went to Bailey Trujillo, Cottonwood 4-H. Second went to Aspen Ewes, Country Clovers. Third place went to Swayze Fulmar, Cottonwood 4-H. Fourth went to Dakota Goldston, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth went to Aubrey Putman, Country Clovers. Sixth went to Caitlin Wood, Cottonwood 4-H. Seventh went to Peyton Putman, Country Clovers. Eighth went to Allie Elkins, Penasco 4-H. Ninth went to Dakota Goldston, Cottonwood 4-H, tag 793. 10th went to Dylan Goldston, Artesia FFA. And 11th went to Michaela Jefferson, Blue Jeans and Boots. Please bring your Class 9 meat goats to the north end of the show ring. Your Class 9 meat goats to the north end of the show ring.
Another one of those really, really good classes. There's just a lot of good goats in here that, again, they're starting to get the market goat stuff right, and then we're starting to keep some foot and leg and bone underneath them. And then when you get to your class winner, he kind of puts a lot of that together at a very, very high degree. That's an athlete, just the way he gets and goes, you love. What I would probably like the best about this weather is just his proportions, how everything fits together, how everything matches. That's a powerful one, but yet he's still smooth in the way everything sets and blends. And probably structurally, as the way he gets and goes, he's square off either end, but yet he's still level and very, very comfortable. Just a very, very athletic, a neat kind of goat here that ends up winning this class. These next two, I go back and forth, but as you parade them around that final time, again, the way they use their back leg, the way they plant and push and keep up out of his hip, I give that advantage to this one we're going to leave here in second. A little better out through his hip and tail head, heavy bone and big-footed, a little square to his hock all the way to the ground. I even like that he tucks up and runs uphill just a shade more in a more attractive manner probably, and still hits you with some power and some shape. He just ran into a man there in front of him and just not quite enough of him to get around him, but still a very, very nice go. I like this one that comes here in third. He is powerful. He is opened up top. He's got the right kind of width to his chest and look to his head and his forearm there as well. Just gets a little shorter hip relative to those two. Maybe doesn't keep it squarely underneath him as well as he tracks from behind, but that's still a very, very good goat. He hits a lot of things good, just in a very challenging and tough class. Same thing can be said for this 1 and 4. Big chest and forearm. He handles tremendously well over the middle of his back. Probably of these four, when you watch him on the go, he probably falls apart just a little more, not because of her, because she keeps his head up and out of him, but he's just a little weaker behind his shoulder, a coarser and a little more forward in that shoulder. And I think because of it, when he travels, he's just not as neat to look at in terms of balance there, but still a very, very good goat. Another one here that we like quite well, from her about a mid-rib forward, that she's as good as any in terms of just body shape. Again, a big, stout, powerful forearm in that one, pretty stout skull here as well, and runs uphill the right way. Just gets a little flatter and narrower out of her hip in her pin setting when you get right in behind her. I think that throws her off balance-wise just enough. She doesn't keep herself as square. I like this one when I get my hands on him. Really, really firm, really, really expressive. It's just when he's on the move or there in terms of just balance, he wants to fall apart a little bit, maybe not hit you, maybe his quality and his skeleton as some of those other ones, but a muscular one that's got some shape. Nice profile one here that just got outpowered probably by the rest of them out here, but I do like his look and his shape. Then we get the four of them here again. Got some bone. We've got enough width probably up front in those goats. Just want to see them stouter, more shapely, more expressive in terms of muscle tone as we sort through these. But again, an impressive class all the way through. Very deep class, but a really nice goat that led off.
First place went to Aspen Hughes, Country Clovers. Second went to Clancy Conklin, Cottonwood 4-H. Third went to Madeline Clark, Carlsbad FFA. Fourth went to Gracie Rand, Artesia FFA. Fifth went to Stella Rand, Cottonwood 4-H. Sixth went to Reagan Chavez, Loving 4-H. Seventh went to Aubrey Putman, Country Clovers. Eighth went to Taylin Pacheco, Cottonwood 4-H. Ninth went to Abigail Nieto, Loving 4-H. 10th went to Armando Herrera III, Loving 4-H. And 11th went to Adriana Nieto, Loving 4-H. please bring your first and second place meat goats from Class 7 and Class 8 to the north end of the show ring. Your first and second place meat goats from Class 7 and 8. Attention show exhibitors. Following the meat goat show, there will be a small fair dance in the covered concession stand area.
doesn't get any easier as we get some of these final classes. Again, just gets very challenging to figure out exactly where you want to be. And this one here, again, he's so different in his look out here in terms of just youthfulness at this point, and his head, his chest, the way we've got him in terms of his composition and his body, I think is spot on. I like the way he turns out of his rack and there over his midrib and body there. Still wanted to handle his structure so incredibly well. And so what makes it a little more challenging for me, because I'm picky, I'd still like to maybe open that guy up right there over his loin and over his hip ever so slightly to really get there where you please me exactly right. But boy, from the side, that one getting and going hits you hard. Up front, his chest width is impeccable in terms of just being impressive and good, and the way he runs uphill, very fresh, and the way he handles as well. So very nice goat here to leads off this tough class. One that comes here next in second, I just like to watch this one walk. He prances, he goes, he's got some squareness, he's got some stoutness. He is a little better over his loin than what that one that leads out ahead of him, but the trade-off is he's not quite as good right behind his shoulders what that one leads off ahead of him. So again, a nice pair to talk about and sort there. One here in third, he's one of those ones in terms of just bone and stoutness or feature, he may be better than both those ahead of him in that aspect. He's a little thicker neck. He's a little more thicker in terms and deeper in terms of his chest flow relative to those, and just not the same kind of silhouette when they're on the move. Now, when she parks him, she gets it pulled out of him and gets him parked and looking the right way, and that can really get in your eye. And then once we walk him, it makes more sense to leave him there in third. But still, that's a very, very competitive weather that she has as well. If we could square this one up from behind, when he goes, you like him even that much better. He is awesome in his top shape. He's awesome in his rack dimension. As he goes away from you, though, he just wants to narrow up and flatten a little more than I like him to. Another really fresh handling, big backed one here that gets a little steep in his hip, a little frailer maybe than what those other ones do. Got a pair of weathers here that both got the right kind of look and presence. They just get outpowered by those ones ahead of them, not the same kind of width and substance. Got a pair of them here that, again, body shape's pretty good. They're practical type goats. They just get a little plainer in their look and general makeup. And those three we end up closing this class with, again, just could use a touch more balance up front, a touch more bone when you study them down low. But a very competitive heavyweight class here. Let's give all these kids a nice hand.
First place went to Creed Hughes, Country Clovers. Second place went to Braden Fuentes, Artesia FFA. Third went to Madeline Clark, Carlsbad FFA. Fourth went to Jace Starnes, Cottonwood 4-H. Fifth went to Jack Jerva, Country Clovers. Sixth went to Kaylee Shockey, Cottonwood 4-H. Seventh went to Bailey Trujillo, Cottonwood 4-H. Eighth went to Court Crandall, Artesia FFA. Ninth went to Dakota Goldston, Cottonwood 4-H. 10th went to Colton Nikes, Cottonwood 4-H. 11th went to Case Crandall, Country Clovers. And 12th went to Keegan Goldston, Artesia FFA. Please bring all your division champion and reserve champions to the north end of the show ring. All your division champions and reserve champions to the north end of the show ring.
boy, a really good division here to close with. And again, a lot of strength through here. That first class, again, a little tough just getting them all to cooperate and sitting there. But boy, still a weather that does a good job of being a market goat, but yet he's got some length, he's got some look about him. He may not be as organized in his skeleton in terms of just his strength behind his shoulder and hind leg posture as what these other two are, but still a good kind of weather and a real fresh red doe there that was in the class with him. Tough class that came out of that next one here, but I still thought this black-headed one kind of won that class pretty handily for me. Just his freshness, just his rib cage, just consistency of parts and pieces and the way they all fit together is still something I like out here. That one that was second behind him's got some extra pieces in terms of foot and bone. I love his comfort of movement there as well. So another nice go. And then this pair we just discussed, this one here, just again awfully athletic and at that weight and size still keeps himself very, very fresh and tucked into his chest. Head and neck posture awesome. This goat's really, really good there in terms of just his rack and back shape. So good in terms of roundness of his body. I like the way he gets and goes in terms of his structure. You start to nitpick and break him down, though. He almost needs a bigger, wider, square loin just to make it as consistent all the way through and maybe just open his pins relative to a couple of these other ones out here. But that's being awfully picky because when that one's on the go or you get all three of them moving, that's the one that probably gets in your eye as easy because his structure and his skeleton are right. So really nice setup. And one of them hit me hard here. This one out of Class 2 is going to be the champion here in this division. Going to use Class 3 here behind her to be reserved.
Your champion Division 3 went to Aspen Hughes, and your reserve Division 3 went to Creed Hughes.
been a fun day, and I apologize for keeping you a little longer here. Try to get through them as efficiently, but boy, them classes got a little tough and bogged our guy down to try to get them correct. But boy, I do appreciate what you brought to the show. And again, thank the ring help. I'm envious of your beard game. I wish I could do that. That's impressive there, but he's done a nice job out here. Let's give him a hand. Our announcers table up here as well. Positive attitude. She's still smiling at the end of the day, and they throw a lot at her. But I give her a hand there as well. She's doing a nice job keeping us all organized over here. Probably the coolest thing I've seen today, and I remember this from when I was judge your steers a few years back, was I'm always impressed with just the competitiveness of your kiddos. But the way they compete, how happy they are for others when they get up and win or they don't win. You don't get a lot of frowns. You might get a little disgust every now and then. That's just part of being competitive, but the genuine happiness they have for other people doing well as well, you don't see that a whole lot anymore. And so I commend you guys, whoever's raising them and teaching them, preparing them. You ought to give yourselves a hand. Y'all doing a nice job with these kids. Been competitive out here. I think you can hopefully see what I'm out here looking for. Again, stout featured, muscular animals that can still go and have some skeletal integrity to them. And then once we start getting that under wraps, we start doing the little pieces of balance and freshness and kind of sculpting them things out. And so that's where we're laying what we have here. It's kind of cool to see almost the bigger versions of each other here on this front line and how that all came together. I was extremely impressed when that little one came in. And in fact, I said to myself, if nothing else comes in and that's our champion, I'd be perfectly happy, because I do like just his basics, his fundamentals. I think he'd be a fun one to continue to feed on and see what he gets to develop and become, because he's got the right parts and pieces to make a really, really nice one. Again, same thing can be said for that little one that's behind him there in the division. This next division, again, two goats here. I love just the basics and fundamentals of. They are stout. They are opened up. This one was just a little better in his hip and jump muscle and the way he carried himself out of his hock. Then that pair that came out of that last division, again, really good to be heavyweights, to still keep yourself fresh, to still keep yourself athletic. I think that's what's impressive. What's cool about those two, as much pounds and bulk as they have on them, those still might be two of the more athletic goats we have out here in terms of just cleanness of condition and way they get and go and set their feet and legs to the ground. So again, really impressed out here. Just give all these kids that have been in and out of this ring a big, big round of applause. I'll show you two I like best.
Your grand champion meat goat went to Aspen Hughes, and your reserve meat goat went to Creed Hughes. Please let's give this judge one more big round of applause for coming out and judging not only the goats but the lambs this morning. We're so grateful he came out here tonight.